Hello friends, it's Lisa, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I would like to try and read this summer. I'm definitely someone that doesn't typically do TBRs unless they're kind of like for readathons or seasonal TBRs because I'm definitely more of a mood reader, but I'm also very indecisive and get overwhelmed when I have too many options. So I like to do these TBRs to have a more, like a smaller pool of books to choose from, but also where I can kind of mood read within that smaller list of books, if that makes sense. So I have my TBR next to me. I'm just gonna go through the books that I plan to read. And a lot of them, it's really interesting. A lot of them are like romances or like YA contemporaries, and I definitely feel like there's been a shift in what I've been wanting to read and what I've been gravitating towards this year. I definitely feel like summer is like the season to read YA contemporaries and romances. Like it's just, that is the time for them to shine. But I also feel like just this whole year I've been in a romance mood. So of course there's some romances on here, some YA contemporaries. I do have a few fantasies, of course. So let's just get into the TBR. I'm also gonna go kind of quickly because it's very warm out, and the longer I have my blinds open, the more sun is gonna be in here and the warmer it will get. So let's get going. So like I was saying, YA contemporaries I seem to gravitate towards a little bit more in the summertime. I definitely feel like I am not the biggest YA contemporary reader. It totally depends on the author and like what the actual plot and like subject matter is, but I do have some YA contemporaries on my TBR that I would like to kind of get through, especially because I feel like the older I get, the less likely I am to want to pick up a YA contemporary. So I do have a few that I would like to read this summer. The first one being Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. I bought this I think last year. I think it's shown up on a few TBRs at this point, but June is also Pride Month, which is the start of summer, so I feel like this might be a book that I want to read in June. So in this book you're following Felix, who I think starts getting these like anonymous messages from like someone that's being very transphobic, and I think his dead name starts getting spread around. So I think this book is Felix trying to like figure out who's doing this, and I think there's a romance as well, and I don't know too much. That's kind of all I want to know going into it, but I am so excited to read this book. I know a lot of people have been loving this book for the few years that it's been out. I'm also still obsessed with this cover. I think it's so stunning. So yeah, I'm hoping to pick this up soon. I would love to pick it up in June for Pride Month. And I do have a couple other YA contemporaries on my TBR for this summer as well. And I think these showed up in my summer TBR from last year, and I still haven't read them. But that is the two Morgan Matson books that I have. So I have Save the Date and Since You've Been Gone. These just scream summer to me. So I feel like if I don't read them this summer, I'm not going to read them until maybe next summer, so I really would like to get to them soon. I've never read from Morgan Matson before, which I find very surprising, especially because when I was in like middle school and like high school, I was really into YA contemporaries. That was like mainly all I read, and I'm just surprised that I never even like accidentally stumbled upon a Morgan Matson book, but I've seen her books talked about for many, many years. Like when I started watching BookTube, I know people were talking about her books then. So I would like to read these this summer. I'd like to try out her books. This just seems like a really fun, like YA contemporary. You're following this girl, Charlie, whose sister is getting married, and everything for this wedding starts going wrong. Like all of these plans and all of these things start to kind of fall apart. I think there's a romance, and that's all I know, but it sounds like it's gonna be a really fun time. So I would like to get to this. And Since You've Been Gone, I somehow have read the description of this book so many times I still don't know. Okay, yeah. It's about these two girls who are like best friends, and I think one of them ends up kind of disappearing right before the summer. So again, the perfect time to read this is during the summer. And the friend that kind of disappears leaves behind this to-do list for our main character to complete, and she thinks that doing this list might help bring her friend back. So it just sounds really fun. I think there's going to be maybe some strong like friendship vibes in this book. I'm sure there's also a romance in here. It does say kiss a stranger as part of the thing on the to-do list, so I'm imagining there's romance as well. And yeah, both of these books just seem like books I need to read during the summer, so maybe this summer will finally be the one that I read them. I also do have a few like adult contemporary romances as well on my TBR that I would love to read this summer, and one of them is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. So this is the third and final book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and each book you're following a different Brown sister as they find love, and they're just really fun romances. Like I've had such a good time reading both Chloe Brown and Dani Brown, and I know a lot of people really love Eve Brown and I'm so excited to finally pick it up. I also think this one might be more of an enemies to lovers kind of situation, so I'm really excited to read that. And I know me and Darian have buddy read the first two together, so I think we plan to buddy read this one. So Darian, be prepared because I want to read it at some point this summer. But yeah, these books are so much fun. They're such fun romances. I've loved the first two. I imagine I'm going to love this one. And it is the final book in this trilogy, so I would also be completing another series that I've started, which is like one of my goals for this year. So I think now might be the time to finally finish off this series. I'm very excited to read it, but I'm also sad that it's going to be the last one. Oh, I also forgot to mention in the kind of YA contemporary section of this video that I would like to, again, try to read Rise to the Sun by Leah Johnson this summer. I know I put this on my summer TBR last year and clearly I didn't read it, so we're gonna try again this year. This is the same author as You Should See Me in a Crown, which I read a couple years ago when it came out. I think it came out in 2020, and I absolutely loved that book, so I would really like to read Leah Johnson's other book. I think this one is following these two girls who meet and fall in love at a music festival, and I think there's like things going on in both of their lives that they're kind of struggling with as well, but they kind of come together and really bond at this music festival. And as someone who loves concerts and the idea of like meeting someone at like a music festival or a concert or something, like that just sounds so great. So I'm really excited to pick this up, and I really do plan to read it this summer. Again, I know I mentioned it in my summer TBR from last year, but this summer I'm really gonna read it. It's finally gonna happen and I'm very excited. But going back to the more adult romance contemporary type of books, I would love to pick up some Emily Henry books this summer. I have a hold on Beach Read that hopefully will be coming in soon, and I plan on reading it for a specific video, and I really hope I like it because I want to read her other books. I think Book Lovers just came out and I feel like I'm seeing it everywhere, and I just want to be an Emily Henry girly so bad. So Beach Read, from what I know, you're following these two characters, I think, that go on vacation to the beach, and they end up being neighbors, and they're also both authors. I think he writes literary fiction and she writes romance, and they're both in writing slumps as well. So I think they decide to like switch genres to kind of help themselves get out of these writing slumps. But I don't know, it just sounds really fun, really cute. I know a lot of people really love Emily Henry's books, and I want to be like that as well. I do know a lot of people also don't really like them, but I'm really hoping that I am someone that enjoys her romance books because I want to love them so bad. I have read another Emily Henry book before, but it was a YA like sci-fi, and it was from like years ago, and the writing itself was fine. I just didn't really connect with the characters. So I'm hoping with her romances I feel differently and that I really enjoy them. I also will say I do have Tessa Bailey's books like on my radar, both It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker. I honestly don't know anything about these books. I've just seen them everywhere and I feel like everyone is loving them, so I would like to maybe pick them up this summer as well. Okay, and I do, believe it or not, have some books on this TBR that aren't contemporary romances, so let's discuss some of those. I would like to maybe potentially pick up Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Casimano. I have heard so many great things about this book. I haven't heard like a single bad thing about it, and just like the premise by itself gives me similar vibes to Diale for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto, which is a book that I read and loved. So I have a feeling I'm really gonna like this book. The premise of this book sounds so wild and like so much fun. You're following Finley Donovan, who is an author. She's kind of a thriller mystery suspense author, and over lunch she's talking to her agent about her next book, like the plot of her next book, and someone overhears her and thinks that she is like a contracted killer. I think it says in the descriptions that she is the one who's like committing these crimes. She's not just writing about them. So I think they like offer her this job to kill somebody for them, and it just sounds like complete chaos, and I think I'm really gonna love it. So I would like to potentially pick this up this summer as well. Also this summer I want to start reading some books on my 5-star predictions list. I want to start getting more of those vlogs up. I want to get the next one up maybe in June, potentially July, but I would like to get it up sooner. So for my 5-star predictions this year, I have 4 like new releases in 2022 and 4 backlisted titles. And for the backlisted titles, I have a feeling I'm going to want to read these over the next few months. I have one that I'm very scared to read, so I'm going to put that off, I think, for as long as possible. But I would like to read a couple of the other backlisted titles on that list. So I have The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake and Emma by Jane Austen. These are very different books. But I think Emma might be a good one to read, maybe not for my next one, but start reading it soon so I can kind of take my time and make sure I'm fully understanding everything that's happening in this book, because I'm definitely not a classique reader, so I definitely want to be able to take my time and fully like comprehend and understand everything in this book. So I'm thinking I might be picking up the Atlas Six for my next 5-star predictions vlog. I don't know if you would prefer to see one sooner rather than later, let me know, but I think this might be the one that I pick up next. And I'm very excited to read this book. I'm very scared because it does get a lot of mixed reviews and feelings, but I also know there are a lot of people who I tend to feel similarly about books have enjoyed it, so I have a good feeling, but Casey's 1-star review is really throwing me off. I also do hope I like this book because I do have this original like self-published edition, and I don't know if you can even get this one anymore. I think there's just the newer traditionally published edition that does have some changes that I think you have to read in order to read the sequel, so if I do like this, I'm gonna have to read it again, but a different edition. But I really do hope I like it because I think it would be really cool to have this edition of a book that I enjoy. So fingers crossed. This is, I think, a fantasy, so very different from the rest of the books on this TBR, but I think if I read at least one fantasy this summer, I think I'll be okay. It is really strange to see that fantasy is like not the majority of the books on this list, because that's always been like what I've said my favorite genre is, and I still think it is, but I just haven't been reading very much of it, so we'll change that with the Atlas Six and hopefully I enjoy it. Alright, and last but not least, I do have a full series almost that I would like to try and read this summer, and that is the Graceling Realm series. So we have Fire, Bitter Blue, and Winter Keep. And I would like to maybe pick these up over the summertime. I do think that these are the type of books that also would be really great and cozy to read in like the fall and winter time, but I really want to just like marathon this series. I would like to just kind of read them back to back. I think that'd be really fun. I don't really marathon series anymore, but the fact that I have all of them just like waiting for me, I feel like this is like the perfect opportunity to do that. I have actually started Fire. I read the literal like first 15 pages. I think it's literally the prologue, and then all of my holds in my library started coming in, and I've had to read other things for other videos, so it kind of got put on the back burner, but I definitely want to pick it back up and then read the rest of the series maybe this summer. I don't know, we'll see. I do think that if I do get in a fantasy mood this summer, these are going to be the books that I kind of gravitate to first, so I figured I'd put them on the TBR if that fantasy mood does strike me. This is also a series where each of them kind of stand on their own, but characters from across, I think, all of the books kind of show up in different books, and I'm just really excited about it. I think it's going to be really, really fun to read. These books all do, I think, have romances as well in them. The first one definitely did. I think the rest of them do as well, so I think that that would also, like, as I'm in my romance era, I think if I was going to read a fantasy, having a fantasy with a lot of romance would be the way to go. So potentially reading the rest of the series this year. I do think there's also a 5th book in this series coming out. I don't know if that's coming out later this year or next year, but I would love to be caught up on the series before that new release happens. I probably should check when that's coming out. But that is it. Those are all of the books that I would maybe like to get to this summer. Again, like I was saying at the beginning of this video, my TBRs are definitely just suggestions. I don't force myself to stick to them. Obviously, there's books that were on last year's summer TBR that I didn't read. I do just like to make things a little bit easier for myself and give myself a few less options to choose from when I'm trying to pick my next read, because like I said, I get overwhelmed when I have too many options. I'm bad at making decisions. Definitely let me know if you have any reading plans for this summer as well. I think it's really interesting if people are kind of seasonal readers like I am, where certain genres just make more sense to read in certain seasons. I also would love to know if you've read any of these books, any of your thoughts, which ones I should prioritize getting to this summer, because as we all know, it's very likely that I probably won't read all of these books, so let me know which ones I should try my best to get to. But I think that that is going to be it for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.